In the quiet town of Le Mans in France in the early 1930s, a chilling tale of familial bonds turned deadly unfolds. The seemingly ordinary lives of two sisters, Christine and Léa Papin, took a sinister turn that sent shockwaves through the entire nation. Hi folks, I'm Johnny and welcome to The Oddest. Employed as live-in maids, the Papin sisters inhabited the shadows of their employer's home, only to reveal a darkness that lurked within their own hearts. Christine and Léa Papin were born in France in the early 1900s, Christine in 1905 and Léa later on in 1911. They had a really tough childhood. Their dad, Gustave, well, he was a mean drunk, an alcoholic, and their mum, Clemence, well, it was no secret that she was not suited for motherhood. Clemence had her first child, Emilia, in 1901. When Christine came along 4 years later, Clemence felt overwhelmed and handed the baby over to Gustave's sister. Shortly after that, their third daughter, Léa, was born. Clemence found out that her husband had done something really bad to the oldest daughter, Emilia, who was just 10. Read between the lines. He was a piece of shit, that's all you need to know. Clemence, the beaming icon of motherhood that she was, well, she was having none of this. So, although she had divorced her ex-sack-of-shit husband, she still blamed Emilia, saying that the 10-year-old clearly seduced her father, so she shipped her off to the strict Le Bon Pasteur convent. To be fair, this was all so she didn't have to be a mother at all. She also sent Christine to join her sister at the convent and the youngest Léa to live with a great uncle. But Clemence's plan backfired. See, away from all this chaos, the sisters got closer and seemed to flourish. That's nature versus nurture right there. Emilia became a nun, and Christine planned to follow in her big sister's footsteps and do the same. Clemence was furious when she heard about Emilia joining the order. She had wanted the girls to leave the convent when they were old enough to work and become live-in maids, so she could fleece them of all their cash. That's why you have children. Clemence got Christine out of the convent, afraid of losing another moneymaker. Christine would go on to work in middle-class homes in Le Mans, fitting in easily due to her convent training. Her bosses liked her, but her mum, well, she wasn't happy with the pay. So Clemence forced Christine to quit and find better paying jobs. This happened over and over again. Léa, the youngest sister, also left her uncle's place and started working as a maid. Despite being apart for a while, the sisters found a strong bond and enjoyed each other's company. So now their lovely mother had at least 2 of her kids making some extra cash for her. Result: in 1926, Christine got a job as a maid and cook for Monsieur René Lancelin, a retired lawyer, and his family, Mrs. Leone and 2 grown daughters. One daughter was married and lived elsewhere, and the other, Genevieve, well, she was still at home living with her parents. After a few months of doing a great job, Christine convinced Madame Lancelin to hire Léa as her chambermaid. The sisters didn't go out much, except for church on Sundays and then regular visits to a local fortune teller, who claimed that the sisters were actually married in a past life. They worked long hours, as to be expected for the time period, and the Lancelins were happy to have such hard-working and religious girls who weren't really interested in dating or going out partying. The Lancelins thought that they had hit the jackpot. Well-behaved, God-fearing, disciplined girls. Brilliant. While the Lancelins thought their new servants were perfect, a past boss had mentioned that Christine could be bossy and got upset if asked to do tasks that she thought were beneath her. This lady had previously fired Christine after 15 days of work. Local shopkeepers in the area also thought the girls were a bit strange, describing them as cold and distant. Despite all that, the sisters got along well with Madame Lancelin and her daughter, and that's all they cared about. They were well treated, they had a heated room and received standard wages for the time. Christine and Léa even started seeing Madame Lancelin as a mother figure, calling her maman, while referring to their own biological mother simply as that woman. When Madame Lancelin found out that the sisters were sending all of their money to their mother, well, she stepped in. No chance is that happening. She told the girls that their pay is theirs, and she actually wrote a wee letter to Clemence to tell her that this gravy train has come to an end. The sisters even had a small balcony attached to the room, so they could stand there and watch the people of Le Mans. This was a luxury for servants back in that time. Everything seemed fine for a few years, I mean, you've seen the title of the video, right? As time passed though, Madame Lancelin became critical of all of the cleaning. It got so bad that she physically assaulted Léa, pinching her hard and making her kneel on the floor to pick up a tiny piece of scrap paper that she missed while she was sweeping. Later on, after work and when the sisters were back in their own room, Léa had told Christine that if Madame put her hands on her again, she would regret it. On the 2nd of February 1933, Madame Lancelin and her daughter Genevieve went into town for the day. The man of the house, well, he was also away at his office. When they returned later on from town, it was early evening and they noticed that the place was in total darkness. Léa would later claim that the house was dark when their employers returned because she accidentally shorted out the power with a faulty iron. Christine met Genevieve and her mother at the front door and explained the power issue. According to Christine, Madame Lancelin got furious. Christine grabbed a pewter jug and smashed it over Madame's head. Genevieve jumped to her mum's aid, but she was quickly subdued by Léa. Christine had yelled to Léa that she was going to massacre them. She ordered Léa to smash Madame's head into the ground and told her to tear her eyes out. These brutal acts were also inflicted upon Genevieve. When the two women, now laying there helpless and blind, the sisters calmly walked around the house looking for more weapons to finish the job. They found a knife and a hammer, and they ruthlessly beat and stabbed the Lancelin women. They later claimed the women were screaming and moaning, but the Papin girls either couldn't hear or they just weren't listening. After making sure that their victims were dead, they prepared the bodies as if for cooking, following a recipe Christine found in a 1901 cookbook for a rabbit dish. As if that wasn't enough, they lifted the victims' skirts over their bloody heads and then they mutilated them further. Using Genevieve's menstruation blood, they smeared it all over the Lancelin ladies as if basting them to be cooked. Satisfied with their gruesome work, the sisters calmly cleaned up and then began their evening routine before preparing to go to bed. Monsieur Lancelin, well, he returned home to a locked house. He assumed that his wife and daughter had already left for a previous dinner engagement. So he went to the event and then was dismayed to find that they weren't even there, they hadn't even arrived. Uneasy, he returned with a friend from the dinner engagement who noticed flickering candlelight coming from the servants' room on the top floor. Alarmed, they summoned a gendarme, which is basically a French cop. He was able to climb over the wall in the rear garden and gain entry to the house via the back door. He then walked through to the front and let Mr. Lancelin and his colleague in. They were not prepared for what they would find. As the gendarme shone his flashlight around the lower level of the house, he had this thought in his head to go upstairs. It seemed apparent that the ladies of the house weren't home, but maybe something had happened to the servants. He then put his flashlight onto the staircase as he was walking up. An object caught his attention. It was white, milky and spherical. Upon closer inspection, he realised it was a human eyeball. He ordered Monsieur Lancelin and his colleague to stay downstairs and discovered the gruesome scene on the second floor. The facial features of the women were pretty much unrecognisable, with Madame Lancelin's ripped out eyeballs found around her neck. Fearing a similar fate for the servants, he went to the third floor. Once on the third floor, he could see candlelight under the bedroom door and through the keyhole. This was the servants' room. Hearing hushed voices inside, he knocked on the door. After getting no response, he forced his way in and found Léa and Christine on the bed in a tight embrace. Next to the bed, on a wee bedside table there, he would find a hammer with what can only be described as brain tissue on it. They were swiftly arrested and charged with murder. Of course, the sisters both claimed it was all done in self-defence. Before long, the story had spread through the nation. Surprisingly though, there was public sympathy for these two women, even from intellectual figures of the time, like Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir and Jean Genet, who saw it simply as a class struggle between the rich and very poor. As the courtroom drama unfolded in the wake of the Papin sisters' gruesome crimes, the appointed lawyer took centre stage, weaving a narrative of insanity in a bid to shield Christine and Léa from the full extent of their heinous acts. The sisters, with haunted gazes and an air of detachment, played their parts well, avoiding eye contact and staring straight ahead as if ensnared in a perpetual daze. Their solidarity was unwavering. They shielded each other from probing eyes of justice, refusing to implicate one another. In a stunning twist, both sisters confessed to the crime, claiming sole responsibility for this blood-stained tragedy that had unfolded behind closed doors. Their defence lawyer painted a portrait of a troubled lineage, recounting tales of a cousin confined to an insane asylum, and a grandfather prone to violent fits of rage. An uncle's tragic suicide further underscored the defence's argument. An inherited disposition towards insanity that they argued shaped the destiny of the Papin sisters. However, 3 medical experts for the prosecution argued that the sisters were perfectly sane, but they were cold-blooded and calculated. Despite the bizarre mutilations and corpse preparation not being elaborated upon in the court and jury had already decided on the verdict. The court showed compassion for Léa, believing that she was under the influence of her older sister. She received a 10-year hard labour sentence, while Christine was sentenced to death by guillotine. This was scheduled for September 30th of 1933 in the public square at Le Mans. During their confinement, the sisters were kept apart, causing Christine's mental health to rapidly decline. She begged repeatedly to see her sister Léa, experienced violent fits, she refused to eat and even attempted to tear her own eyeballs out, leading to being placed in a straitjacket. The warden of the prison eventually relented, allowing the sisters to see each other. During this strange visit, Christine made sexual advances towards her sister Léa, trying to unbutton her blouse and repeatedly saying, "Say yes, please." On January 22nd, 1934, President Albert Lebrun issued a stay of execution for Christine. She was resentenced to a life term of hard labour, but was transferred to an insane asylum in Rennes after a few years. Christine had written a wee letter pleading to be with Léa, but her wish was denied. Refusing to eat, she simply wasted away and died at the age of 32 on the 18th of May 1937. Léa was released from prison after serving only 8 years for good behaviour and became free in 1941. She went to live with her mother in Nantes, working as a hotel maid under a fake name. The exact date of her death is actually unknown, but there is a photo of her as an elderly lady. It is now believed that the sisters suffered from a condition known as folie à deux. Literally, it just means madness of two, also known as a shared paranoid disorder. This condition occurs in small groups or pairs isolated from society, leading an intensely inward-looking existence with a paranoid view of the outside world. Folie à deux is a very interesting mental illness. See, most couples who commit murders together have this kind of obsessive and inward-looking relationship. You should have a wee look at one of my previous videos on this topic about the Erickson twins. It's mind-blowing. I'll leave a link down in the description below. The curtain draws back on the lingering mystery of the Papin sisters, extending beyond the confines of their notorious crime. While historical records suggested that Léa Papin passed away in 1982, there's some evidence which says otherwise. In the year 2000, French film producer Claude Ventura embarked on a quest, not for cinematic glory, but to unearth the truth surrounding the Papin sisters. During the creation of his film En quête des sœurs Papin, which means In Search of the Papin sisters, Ventura claimed to have discovered Léa Papin alive, residing in a hospice centre in France. The woman that he identified as Léa had been afflicted by a stroke, leaving her partially paralysed and robbed of the ability to speak. However, this has never actually been confirmed to be her. The woman believed to be Léa, having endured the ravages of time and infirmity, passed away in 2001. Christine and Léa Papin find themselves together again in the Cimetière Boutellerie in Nantes. The horrific mystery that is the Papin sisters persists, transcending the boundaries of time, inviting speculation, and ensuring that their story continues to captivate those who seek to unravel the complexities of this haunting tale. That's it for this video, folks. I can't thank you all enough for taking the time to watch any of my stuff. Take care of yourselves out there, take care of each other, and remember, no matter what, keep smiling.